years ago, World War I changed people's lives forever. The world was never the same again. Together, you've all brought it back to life, and together you've honoured the many men, women and children that gave their lives then for the benefit of ours today. In November, we commemorated the end of fighting 100 years ago, and Century of Stories, together with the people of Leicestershire, have discovered their unique and amazing connections to World War I. We want to share those connections with you today.
Century of Stories has reached out to communities who wouldn't traditionally engage in heritage. People involved in researching and sharing their connection have been from all walks of life, often working together in partnership for the very first time. Independent museums and heritage organisations, offenders, children and adults with disabilities, schools, colleges and universities, youth groups, sports clubs, and of course, the hundreds of individuals on their own personal journeys.
Today is a very special day because we have a wonderful event that is bringing together all of our hard work around the Bosworth Tommies and our story. We have got dignitaries from the council coming along, we've got family and friends, and they're all going to come and celebrate this exhibition. It has been 4 years in the making and we've all worked really hard. I can't believe that 4 years has gone, and the learners have produced a wonderful story that has involved all of the history topics that we have been doing. So it's actually brought our history to life.
What a journey from start to end. We had ups and downs, we had laughs, we had cries, we had some good ideas, we had some crazy ideas, we had some insane ideas. I never thought I would do something like this. It has been one of the best things that I've ever done in my life. What made this project so special is our friendship, our bond that was key. Without it, we will have never have met, and our friendship or project would have never have happened.
This group of learners started here as a history group, and then it's just led one thing to another, and the things they've created, and it's come from them as well. They've started doing things in the summer holiday by themselves. They've done things at home, they've come with ideas, they're buzzing about it. This was the only group originally 7 years ago, and now I think we've got 7 groups across the county, so that's massive, and also empowering for other tutors that are able to hear about this and think, I want to get in that, I want to try it, and giving them the confidence, and also enabling people to go and try other things as well that they wouldn't have done.
We are the Bosworth Tommies!
In the Heritage Lottery Fund, we're always trying to reach out to difficult audiences, and learning disabilities is a really difficult audience to engage in heritage, but when you can engage them, it works out brilliantly. And that's what's gone on here today. You've seen a bunch of people with learning disabilities who've been able to use their contacts, their research, their activity within the heritage that they have, everybody has, in order to really develop as people. And that's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, so these events are fantastic because you get to meet a lot of people that are like-minded, who are doing the same thing that you are, tracing family members. You, of course, through the networking, you can find different routes to go through, get advice, and then also it's really interesting to see other people's stories as well, because the chances are, and quite often is the case, that those family members are in the same regiment, in the same platoon even as your relative. So you are really sharing a story with everybody else within Leicestershire. So it's fantastic.
It's so wonderful to see so many people here in Anstey Library. We've started this with Century of Stories back in September. We got local groups together, and from that we invited people in to see if they had family members on the memorial, but we also wanted to find out about people who survived the First World War, what they did afterwards, how it affected them, and also how the village survived during the First World War and what went on.
We didn't know how many people would turn up to the community day, and we had never tried to reach these people before. We didn't know what the uptake would be, and we thought maybe 2 or 3 people an hour throughout the day, but we had over 100 people. The place was buzzing, it was full, and at one point we paused and went, just to hear that chatter, that constant chatter that's not stopping, that's people connecting, and it became a reunion. There were people who travelled from Northampton who used to live here, and there was that sound of, oh, I remember you, and that's what we're trying to keep going now.
Let me get this right. So you never knew each other. No. And you both come here today and you realise that you've got something in common. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, it turns out that we have my great-great-grandfather is our common ancestor. Yeah. That's right, William Palmer, isn't it?
Yeah. And you've never met each other before?
No. Yeah, well, it's fantastic. And I was just looking at the photographs over there and noticed this name that was familiar to me from my family tree, and I was taking a picture of it, and somebody said, oh, I'll photocopy it for you, and then she says, oh, you might know so-and-so, who's Janet, who's here, who I'd never, she must be related to you. Yeah. How fantastic is that? Yeah, it was really great.
The joy of Century of Stories is that it's never been a prescriptive project. We've worked with sensitivity, creativity and passion to find the best method for people to explore their connections to World War I. Leicestershire Heritage Community truly came together and worked in partnership to enable Century of Stories to offer the right support to achieve the right outcomes.
Well, we're having a great time today. We're having a lot of fun. We're playing host to 75 children from a South Wigston school, and it's very nice to welcome young children really to the record office, because we don't often get small children in, and we're very Jesuitical here about that. You know, we'd like to get them young and convince them that how important archives are and how relevant archives are to them. You know, it's not fuddy-duddy old stuff for you know, elderly people tracing their family tree and things like that. It's relevant to everybody. So, you know, it's a delight to take them out to our reconstructed trench and to show them, give a sort of an insight how trench warfare worked, the problems of messages going you know, astray and all that sort of thing, and play at firing a mortar, so we were pinpointing targets on a map and sending runners here, there and everywhere, and stretcher bearers when they got wounded. You know, so we're having a lot of fun, but we're learning at the same time.
Hello, are you there? We're looking at World War I and what the soldiers were doing. We're doing a history of World War I, and Centuries of Stories asked us if we wanted to come to the records office to engage the children and to look at anything that we wouldn't necessarily be able to do in school. And they're also having a tour around the records office, so they're looking at how pieces of paper are conserved and how we look after records that are hundreds of years old, which is brilliant because they would never have that opportunity at school. The children are really enjoying it. They really like the World War I topic, and we've done some poems and they're finding it really interesting.
We've come from school to the records office today, and we're learning about the World War I. I'm filling in my soldier small book to give all my information about the World War, and I'm pretending I'm a soldier in the war.
Unless you're a heritage enthusiast, you're not going to wake up in the morning and say, oh, I want to learn about heritage today. But Century of Stories has used World War I as a catalyst to help engage communities, individuals and groups to set their own agenda and achieve their own personal goals.
Dear Mum and Dad, I hope you're feeling well and not worrying about me, because I am alright. The trenches are ever so smelly that they have all kinds of stuff like rats, cats, poo and lice everywhere. I feel so ashamed that I have not seen you in 4 years, which is very sad.
This is our heritage. This is what our forefathers contributed, and the fact that, in a sense, the Sikh contribution for many years has been hidden. I mean, certainly when I was at school, I had no idea that our own background, our culture had such a contribution to, make to the war, and I think the children have learnt that.
One of the greatest things about this project is it's given the opportunity for our students to learn about their link to World War I. Their link from a religious point of view, but also from their background and their family backgrounds. But for the children, it's also going to be a great opportunity, and myself, to learn about how the different faiths are connected to World War I. So what is the Hindu link to World War I? What is the Sikh link to World War I? What is the Catholic link to World War I? And also then we can share our link to World War I.
I suppose what's important about this project and what's significant is that Leicester's such a culturally diverse area, and the fact that it's been carried out in a number of different settings and with a number of different faiths, and that shows a great unity within the message and actually shows similarities between faiths.
But I guess the important lesson and what this Century of Stories is allowing us to do is, looking forward, we need to collaborate, work together, and the opportunity to work with Krishna Avanti, Madani, St John's means that we are now, the future is about collaborating and working together, and I think this project has created so many opportunities to do that.
Thank you for the opportunity this project has given us. It's allowed us 4 schools to work collaboratively on a project, to work together, to work collectively on something, to really show our connection.
Sharing the research, outcomes and stories from each individual participant or group has been uplifting and at times very moving. It has shown us the huge impact of personal journeys, but also of group connections and communications. We've used a variety of methods to share our stories, including 70 drop-in sessions and research-based history cafes attended by over 900 people, 70 unique events in museums, libraries and cultural and community venues, community sharing days across the county with over 700 participants and over 50 unique commemoration projects with over 70 partners. We have also used Facebook, Twitter, exhibitions, history cafes, sharing our films on social media, History Pin and Pinterest to share all our stories.
All of us have ambitions and goals in life. It could be companionship, it could be looking after your health and well-being, it could be finding personal connections, or it could just be a qualification. What Century of Stories did was turn the camera around 180 degrees and look at people and say, what do you want to achieve? And through our bespoke projects, we've helped people achieve those ambitions.
I've got a photo here with my father on after the war. I don't know how I know it's my dad, but it is. Somebody must have told me. It must have been in a different book. But I must know a lot of people on this, but I don't know them because they're, well, my dad he died when he was 52, so he's been dead a long while. So I just wanted to come down and know more about his life, really, in the army or wherever. I don't usually come out on a Wednesday, but because I've had a pacemaker and I'm still out of breath. They're very friendly people and I've met friends, so it's brilliant.
While I was doing my project, I got my dad to ask my nan if I could go around my grandma's, which was a lot of effort because I don't normally go around my grandma's, and my grandma had loads of birth certificates and some of them even lead into past the 1900s.
I was Rose Queen, and I do have a picture with the Reverend Francis Michael Ambrose Bain. Yeah, I think it's important that people do come here and tell their stories before people forget. So it's sort of a come-together meeting, if you like.
Okay, I'm Robin Jenkins. I'm Senior Archivist responsible for collections at the Record Office at Leicestershire, Leicester and Rutland, and I'm chairing the conference today. And it is a conference really arranged, called by the Century of Stories project, which is a lottery-funded project run by Leicestershire County Council, really to gather together all the groups who are involved in commemoration of the First World War and to produce something memorable and important and relevant to them about that great conflict and what it means to us today. And this is the academic element, and it's an academic conference which brings together speakers from all sorts of fields and places on all sorts of topics, and an audience that's equally diverse. You know, it's very pleasing that it is. The good thing about it is that it's reaching into all sorts of corners that we haven't explored before, or it's opening up all sorts of questions and interesting angles on the Great War and its remembrance, and bringing in all sorts of comments and conversations, really, in a very pleasant, affable, but also academic way.
Century of Stories is hugely important to the county of Leicestershire. I chair the Veterans Committee, and it is always the highlight of the agenda when the representative from the Century of Stories speaks and shows some of the film and some of the research which they've been doing to the veterans. They really appreciate it and listen intently. So it is a hugely important part of the county. Also, we are very blessed within the county of Leicestershire the support the county give to the military.
If this conference would take place at the Royal Armouries or the National Army Museum, you wouldn't get that wide range of community involvement within the audience, and that's what's so important here. You know, this is a conference about the people for the people, and it's really super.
So we're at this great Central Railway in Loughborough today. We're here for the final stages of our project that we've been doing with the Century of Stories, which is a murder on the Mapperwell Express. The project with the Century of Stories has really sparked an interest in the students researching the period of history of when the World War took place. So we've got Sherlock Holmes that we found was a popular feature of the Strand magazine at that period of time. We've got Jack the Ripper, who allegedly was a soldier in the First World War.
So my character, his name is, I call him Robert Rice. He's a very stuck-up, very flamboyant kind of character. He is probably from the upper class, and he's putting on his new plays across the UK. You know, just trying to distract everyone from the horribleness of World War I.
For me, this project is about the way they've developed socially with each other. When I think back to the start of the project, they wouldn't even go to Miss Wardle's room at lunchtime. They wouldn't talk to each other, they wouldn't communicate, they'd sit on desks by themselves. As the project's evolved, they mix with each other, they communicate, they have a lot of teamwork together. This has had a massive impact on, you know, their learning in school, the way they've developed, and they even now socialise outside of the school setting, you know, at weekends and after school, which is absolutely phenomenal to see. The progress and the transformation that the kids have had through being involved in the project is amazing.
I enjoyed it today, and when it's done and we've all edited, you know, put together the captions and the, you know, all the music, and then we post it on the Century of Stories YouTube page for all of you guys to see.
The Century of Stories team have thoroughly enjoyed the last 4 years, especially being invited to share such precious memories with wonderful and amazing people across Leicestershire. So thank you. Together, we have built nationally award-winning and groundbreaking projects, and the legacy of Century of Stories will be sharing and connecting for years to come. Century of Stories may be coming to an end, but your heritage journey may have only just begun.